we are here, as you see, at the Forbes Creators Upfront event in Los Angeles. I'm so excited right now because I was just at the Forbes event in Atlanta for Forbes Black, and I had an amazing time with such a creative team. But as we know, the Jamir Smith Show is where we celebrate art, culture, fashion, and the powerful stories that move us forward. And talking about moving us forward, there was someone that opened us up on both days, day one and day two here in LA, and that is none other than Steve Bertoni is in the building. Hi.
How's it going, everybody? How are you doing? Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. No,
thanks for all your support and going to all our great Forbes events. We love that. We love this.
I think, immediately we had to bring you on because I think the biggest thing is when we talk about just moving businesses forward and entrepreneurship, that is what the biggest conversation has been this entire week, last week, the week before, and everyone's been talking about community.
Yeah, at Forbes we celebrate success, and we're always about the people, the entrepreneur. It's not the company. Yes, companies are really important, but it's the entrepreneurs and the leaders that make the decisions, right? So we always focus on the entrepreneur and the people, and we think that the entrepreneur is, the real magic of American business, and the engine. It's not perfect, but it is still makes America a very special place.
And what I love about what you just said, Forbes has been consistent, right? It's been consistent voice within shaping narratives around innovation. How do you see creators reshaping that conversation in 2026 and moving forward?
Well, so there's always a talk about creators were always kind of on the outside, not mainstream, and they're talking about, when are creators going to break into Hollywood and this, they are the new Hollywood. Right? There is a trust there. People follow creators, they watch them, they take their advice, they trust them much more than an advertiser. They trust them much more than a, quote, A-list celebrity. So they are really driving media, advertising, commerce, culture. So they are the new stars. And especially as technology changes, as AI is changing search, AI is changing.
That's been the biggest conversation this entire summit.
But with AI, it's kind of like the old website is dead. People are not going to be going to websites anymore. And so social media is a huge place, and people are getting their, they're not going to Forbes so much. They're getting the news, their headlines from these creators. So for us in media, it's very important to be able to translate our brand, our stories to the new social media world. And these creators are the translators. They're like our delivery system.
Are there any shifts, right, from traditional founders and creators that are now becoming full-fledged CEOs in their own brands? Are you seeing shifts in that?
In the creator world?
Yeah,
I think what's really interesting is you hear people talk about it yesterday. Like Rebecca Zamalo says she has 25 employees now. Dar Man has 200 employees. They never set out to be managers and CEOs, but people used to think that influencers and creators were just, doing selfies and lip syncing, but they are entrepreneurs now. They are creating jobs. They have teams. Even every solo creator has, agents and lawyers and accountants. So they're getting more professionalized. While the videos still need to be very credible, the videos have kind of a raw casualness to it. The infrastructure behind that is becoming massive and very professional.
I think when I look at qualities in this entire summit and the summit, prior to Forbes Black, when you look at qualities of entrepreneurs and creators, what makes the Forbes list, right? When you think of that, and that when I think of beyond revenue, right, beyond reach, what is that intangible quality, like vision and consistency and community impact, that helps kind of stand out to make that list?
So as Forbes, we want numbers, right? We like objective lists. So for the top creators, for example, we have a system, an index with 4 things. First is revenue, because we think that's the most important thing, because money will follow impact and shows impact. And for this, we look at money, we look at follower count, we look at engagement rate, it's becoming even more important. The engagement rate is huge. And then we have a special Forbes Entrepreneur Score, which is rating basically the creativity, the chances they're taking, and the size of the brands. So if you make $1 million, pitching coffee for somebody, that's great, that's a good business. But if you're like Emma Chamberlain and you have your own coffee that's in every Walmart, you get a higher score because you're out there, you're taking your money, you're getting investors. So that's what we look at, which is really interesting.
How does Forbes balance cultural influence with a measurable business success?
I think when it comes down, we always count the money. Every Forbes story, whether we're talking about a hedge fund, or talking about a celebrity, or doing a story on Beyonce or Taylor Swift, or there's always a money component. We're talking about their revenue, we're talking about their production company. So Forbes always counts the money, but the beautiful thing is money is the lifeblood of everything. You can cover anything in the world from a business sense. So we're always looking at that for sure.
When you think of Forbes, right, adapting to the culture of authenticity and kind of dominating the digital storytelling today, how do you ensure the editorial integrity while working with publicists and creators whose brands kind of rely on curated narratives?
That's a great question. So Forbes is lucky that there's a Pew Research study that came out that we are one of the most trusted media brands in the world, and that has it's a privilege for us, and our journalists really take that very seriously. So that's our names on the line and the journalists' names on the line. So that's what we do. We want to be. The publicists they're great partners of ours, but they can only pitch the story. Then we do full research, and again, by looking at it through the lens of business and by backing up our claims, like we don't just say like, oh, this person's great, this product's great. We say like, this person's great, and they made $100 million last year. By using the money, it indexes everything. So it's kind of like a very important data point. So it's not just us as tastemakers, but everyone has to have the business and the scale to back that up.
As the creator company kind of grows, right, what role does journalism, which I love, right? What role does journalism in validating or amplifying those voices kind of play, right? Do you kind of see a responsibility for outlets like Forbes to educate the public about the real influence? And I think also, what does that mean in an era of like such a viral time?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think one of the privileges of Forbes is we're a 100-year-old brand. So I think in legacy media, brands still matter because you can trust them, especially in the world. There's so much disinformation. There's and so many people aren't reading anymore. They're just getting it on social media, and who knows, like this, a person on social media could be great, but also they're not going to get fired if what they say is wrong, or if they're getting paid to do it. So Forbes, we mean success. We've always been like in the credential business, where all our lists, whether you're billionaires or most powerful women, or even there's a reason why Forbes magazine is in hip hop songs and country music songs, right? Like so we know that when we put the Forbes stamp on a creator, it is a very important validating tool. But at the same time, we need creators, and Forbes needs to think more about creators, because again, so many people are getting their news and their information from Instagram, TikTok, and we're great at traditional stories, but we're working on this now. We have a great social media footprint, but we need to find creators, whether they're partnering with us or maybe they're in-house, to translate their stories. Like, so if I wrote a 2,000-word business story, I need someone who's like hip and cool and a great storyteller, but they can tell that 2,000-word story in 30 seconds on Instagram. I would love to be able to do that. I'm trying to do that, but I'm not doing it. Thank you. But like, maybe it's better if it's someone who's 20 years younger than me that was a digital native and they just know the trends and know how to tell a story.
A little bit more alignment. But I also think, for our show, what I wanted to do is make sure that I touched a couple of people that were here at the summit and just ask those questions, because they were only able to kind of see you in brief moments of kind of like opening up. The first one comes from Mike, who is here as well. He says, Steve, what is your take on the intersection of credibility and viral validity, right? Can a story be both authentic and also have algorithmic-driven knowledge?
That's a good question. I think absolutely. I mean, again, I think if a story is big and breaking and important, I think that, and it's important to the world, people will read it. But again, it's really important to be credible and be fact-checked, and you're not putting false information out there. And then either the algorithms or the shareability or the marketplace will tell what's important or not. Like, again, everyone loves like the kind of wild tabloid stories, but I think also, speaking of Forbes, like every Forbes story, our goal is to make the reader either smarter or richer. So in all our stories, there's a lesson in there. So you can learn from it, or maybe get a business idea. So our goal is to inform, but also educate and entertain. And I think a good story does all three of those things.
Nikki says, Steve, what emerging creator business models do you find most compelling right now, whether in tech, entertainment, or lifestyle?
I think, again, like I said, that professionalism of creators, like the creators now have teams, but it's an important balance because you don't want to be too bloated. If you have too many people, but a lot of people, they'll have like a task force, and there's 7 people, and they're shooting and editing. I think that's really important. I think it's really interesting where people have these amazing communities, and then they can then create their own products. And you've had, I mentioned, like, Mr. Beast has Beast Burger, Feastables. Danny Austin, who's great, has a whole hairline care. We mentioned Rebecca Zamalo is a fertility company.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah, very interesting conversation. But also it's a board game for kids. So I think if people realize that they have this amazing platform and they have this delivery system for products, but again, hopefully those products speak to what they do and they're the genuine article, and they're good. They're not just putting out junk because they can sell it.
I was going to say, it's the word that we don't want to use is authentic.
No authentic.
As we get ready to wrap our show, what advice do you have for emerging creators hoping to align with brands like Forbes, or kind of become its own ecosystem?
So we want to work with more creators. I think we want to find a next generation for Forbes. We want creators that their specialty is what Forbes is specialty. Whether it's investing, it's entrepreneurship, it's venture capital, it's tech, AI. Like, we want people to cover those things. It's really important. I think it's key for consistency, and if you're a creator, you find what you love and you're passionate about it. And then I think if that passion comes through, you'll attract the appropriate brands in whatever you're focusing on. Whether you're focusing in media, whether you're focusing in style, whether you're focusing on financial literacy. Like, there are brands that want to find that, but they want that energy. So that's interesting.
In 2020, when I started the Jamir Smith Show, I started it in a space of wanting to create conversation. And I recurated the end of my show called the therapy session. So now it gets personal. Just two questions. One, for you, Steve, what does success mean for just you specifically?
What does success mean for me? What my goals are? Or?
Of course.
I mean, at the end of the day, I love journalism. I love media. I could probably make more money doing an easier job. But I love things like this, where you get to fill a room with people and you're sharing knowledge and information. Or I love getting a story that it makes a big difference if people read it, and it really it's seen. That's very important to be able to I'm a reporter. I want to go find great stories, tell stories, and have that resonate. That's what success is a story that resonates.
My last question is, and I always ask everyone this question, what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy? I don't believe in legacies. And I also think
the first person out of 300 shows, is that what you said?
Really?
Oh my God, yeah.
I think legacy is when you're gone, you're gone.
Okay.
And that, as you can see in history, not that I'm going to be historically remembered, but legacies change, and you kind of have no control. People that were saints are now sinners, and people that are sinners are saints. So I don't think about legacy. I guess in general, I have a family. I just want to have people to have fond memories, and I was kind. Sort of thing.
And we appreciate you. You are extremely kind, Steve Bertoni. Thank you so much for being a part of the Jamir Smith Show. Global Media, Power 97.5 LA. Any last words you want to leave any of the people that are here?
Jamir, thanks for having me. What's your legacy you want to leave?
I want to make sure that I have been a blueprint for others to follow, to understand what does it come to work hard, to be a kind person, to be able to make sure that I build relationship. I've always said that consistently on how do we make sure that we are driving the next future behind us to whatever they need, right? And creating a blueprint that they can follow. But lastly, I've realized what we started this conversation off with is making sure that I've created a community for people to be able to feel safe and to ask questions and be secure enough to ask questions. So,
I love that. That's a great legacy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yay!
Yeah.